Yeah, okay. I did, yes. I'm going to stop the recording stopped. I don't need to record that. So you can hear me okay, yeah? Okay. Why is that not working now? It's non-stop with this stuff. Yeah. 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 Seen a fair amount of it. Yeah, I watched that game last night or something else. Mm. Okay, 1 2 1 2. Give us a 1 2 there, Darren. Awesome. Okay, so we're just gonna throw that up. Okay, just gonna do this. 1 2. Give us a 1 2 there, Darren, please. Okay. Yeah. Just making sure that I am recording, and I'm gonna triple checking the recording because I'm recording it into Reaper as well. So give us that 1-2 again, please, Darren.
Those American shock jocks. So I got like my
Oh yeah.
change my wee setup there, you know.
Could you not have got a big microphone? Excuse me.
It's actually called a snowball. So,
sounds good. That's the main thing.
Yeah, that's an instrument mic. Yeah.
Right, let me see if this is going to work. I'm going to fuck about with this. Turn that shade off. Main camera. There we go. With guests. It all seems to be working. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. God almighty. I hope this works. It's recording the audio anyway, and it's live streaming. So we're live. We're up there. Yeah. So, fingers crossed. Okay. With guests. I'm just going to keep it on that one for now. So, hello everybody. Welcome to the live stream. Fingers crossed, please God, and all Buddha and all the deities that this is fucking working. I have had my ass kicked and broke. I have high ambitions for this, and I seem to be getting them fairly battered by technology on a regular basis, which is why I keep saying that I'm going to interview people and bring guests on and all the rest of it. I never seem to do it. There's a reason for that. I can't get the fucking tech to work smoothly enough to fucking do the thing. But anyway, here we go. So as you know, this week's, I'm not going to say first guest because he's not my first guest, and it's not the first time that I've had him on. But it's Darren Matthews. Let me introduce him. He's a drummer, a musician, a stand-up comedian, all of note and a reputation, and he is a member of East Belfast GAF, and we're going to be talking about all of those things. And fellow son of Armagh, which makes him one better than you. So
most importantly,
yes,
yeah.
Which makes him one better. And if you're from Armagh, you know what that means. If you're not from Armagh, never mind. It's not your fault. But here we go. So we're going to get to it. Let me just give me a wee sec here, Darren, just to. The bloody theme tune doesn't seem to want to work. But you have to have a theme tune.
Absolutely. Otherwise, how will people know you've rolled the credits?
Well, exactly. Well, what I like to do, is, how will people know it's over? What I like to do is play a wee sort of flip of music in between segments, if you like.
Yeah.
I don't know that it helps. I don't know that it helps, but it helps me, and that's the main thing. So,
yeah. I have a guitar in the corner. What key's it in?
I think it's in.
I'll do the percussion. I can do the percussion if that's any good.
Yeah. It's in a L sharp.
Oh shit.
Give me a sec here.
You're one of these self-taught blues men, aren't you?
You better believe it.
What are these notes you speak of?
What are these notes you speak of, dude? Did you ever see that? Did you see that? I'm sure you did. There we go. Love it. And the other thing of it as well, it's a little comfort blanket for me. I like to, it's a little thing for me. It's become a little comfort blanket. So that's why I'm going to, I persisted with that. It doesn't make a lot of difference, but it does to me. So there we go. So I've done the introduction. So now there's the theme tune, noodling away in the background. She'll fade it out. You won't even notice. It'll be so professional. It's going to slip off into the ether. Boom. There we go. So we're going to talk. First of all, I wanted to say, did you know that this podcast made the top 200 of the Apple UK politics podcasts?
Actually, congratulations.
I got an email. I hope it's legit. I'm going to say it. I went looking for the evidence, couldn't find it, but I got an email. You are now in whatever and so on. And I'm okay. I don't know.
So we're saying here today, top 200 podcasts, politics in the UK.
On
Tomorrow, the
Apple,
world.
on Apple. Tomorrow, Spotify.
Give yourself some fucking credit, would you? Give yourself some credit.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that then. Yeah. So I hope that's legit. I hope I'm not being just taken for a fucking ride with that, because I do feel a bit foolish. I realised that as soon as I sort of tweeted it out, and then people were congratulating me, and I immediately went, "Oh fuck! Is this is this like is this the modern internet podcaster equivalent of a Nigerian prince? You know what I mean?"
Yeah.
There's a plane hanging. So is this me being fucking the start of a convoluted scam? But I don't think it is. But anyway, we'll say that. But we'll move on. So that's that. So Darren, we're going to talk about interesting things. And one of the first things I want to talk to you about, I want to ask you about, it's something that I'm fascinated with you and what you're involved in. Most of all, I reckon, is the East Belfast GAA.
Yeah,
And
we're into our season now. So
no, yeah. So, but obviously, when you first start these things, you know they don't go smoothly, or they have their hitches, they have their problems, etc., etc. But you find your feet, and my God, have you found your feet? I can't believe you are chalking up wins already, and quite impressive wins. We're not talking about scraping your ass over the finish line here. We're talking about sort of 9-point gaps in some of the games, and you know, and and one of the things that I'm also, and that impresses me as well, you're fielding so many teams across the board, women's, men's, youth, starter, first team, second teams, third teams, you know, all this, hurling, GAA, camogie, etc., etc., etc. And you should do, because you've such a huge catchment area, and it's one of the things that struck me. You may have brought it up. It may have been you that brought that up to me. But somebody did mention the catchment that you potentially have. You're sitting there with a catchment of 100,000 people potentially. There's not a GAA club in Ireland has that. Literally. Because we all know, if you know, here in Lurgan, there's within 500 metres of my house, there's 2 massive GAA clubs. Right?
I mean, in your part of the country, Lurgan, you've got, not even in the Lurgan area, you've even got the country clubs as well around you. There's massive GAA involvement in your part of the world.
Absolutely.
And Belfast does have the same, but it's more to the west, and there's new teams in the north as well.
Yeah.
So, but thankfully, it is growing as well. I mean, we're East Belfast GAA, but we're actually, because of where the Lagan is, we're based in County Down. So we play our matches in County Down, apart from the thirds footballers, which I play for because I'm old.
Yeah. And
we play in Antrim. We play in the South Antrim League. But yeah, 10 teams, over 400 playing members, 100 youth players. It's going well. It's a lot of hard work. I sit on the board, and I'm not doing half the work some of the other guys are. The free time and the volunteer work from some of the members is literally incredible. We've been very fortunate with great sponsors. Great representatives in the community of East Belfast, like Linda Irvine, has helped us massively.
Yeah.
People who are really behind us, and that's the most important thing. I should point out as well that I'm just a member of the club, so I can't be spokesperson for what we're up to. But what we're up to is literally just sport, integration, a bit of fucking unity in the community.
Absolutely, it's just fantastic. I'm just so impressed by the whole project and how quickly. Obviously, without all of that massive effort by everybody at the club, nothing happens. But
yeah.
Nonetheless, I'm still massively impressed by how quickly you have all got off the ground. It's absolutely amazing, and may I offer my congratulations. Not that it matters with any, but you know, it's being noticed. It's been noticed by people like me anyway, and it is that cross community thing. It is essential. We all know, that these sports are, you know, they're some of the best things that we have on this island, and that there's a certain section of our community that don't engage with it because of traditional sectarian reasons is an absolute shame.
Look, it doesn't. It's not even. You can't even say that Gaelic sports belong to Ireland anymore. They belong to the world.
Yeah.
We are a worldwide organization, um, and people of all races, creeds, and cultures play it. So there's no reason why. Why do we have? As I said to when I did a podcast with Linda Irvine about this, I said, why is there a Gaelic team in Soweto, South Africa, and there's not one 5 miles down the road?
Yeah.
So
Well, exactly. And just on that, and it's a very good point, just on that, you'll probably, I don't know if you can see, you probably can't see, not watching the screen, but if you can see, I've just put on the pitch, on the YouTube, there's a picture from last night's Italy versus Spain match at the Euros, and
absolutely,
stuck slap bang in the middle of the Italian fans going boogaloo after they scored their first goal, is a man in a Kerry top, a Kerry gold butter across the front of his green and gold top, and it's glorious. He's having the time of his life. He's not passive in any way at all. He's going absolutely fucking mental, right? But just as you said that, about the clubs being you're right. GAA doesn't belong just to Ireland. Just on that, because when I was looking at this subject today, and that Kerry man obviously going nuts at the match was funny, but then I looked a bit more, and there, by God, GAA clubs in Italy. There's 3 GAA clubs in Italy, and I put the little picture up on the screen. But Ascario Rovigo GAA Rovigo, Ascaro Rovigo. So that's in the north near Venice. Pavoda Gaelic football in Pavoda, and SS Lazio Calcio Galicio down near Rome. There's 3 GAA clubs in Italy, and just as exactly as you said, the GAA is a global sport. I follow on Twitter, and it gives me great pleasure to do it. I follow on Twitter Los Angeles Hurling Club. Los Angeles Social Hurling Club. There's a social hurling club meets on, I can't remember the name of the beach, but one of those famous beaches, and they meet there every Sunday or Saturday, and they have a great sign, and it says, they sort of put this A board up, and it says, it's called hurling, it's Irish, it's 3,000 years old, and anyone can try, because there's obviously lots of passers-by asking them many questions, so they've just sort of put the 3 up there that they get asked most frequently. But back to East Belfast. Are you lining out for the hurling team as well?
I'm lining out for the hurling development team. So I played a few games for the first last year, but now actual hurlers have joined, so I can drop down a grade. It's great. So I would have lined out with the seniors last year, but we now have such a bigger panel where we split it into first and development. And obviously, I didn't play hurling. I didn't play hurling for 20 years. Yes. So me coming back was probably hilarious to watch. So whenever there were like a couple of new boys have joined that can actually play, I was like, right lads, thanks very much.
you were happy
to football.
You were happy to pull a ripcord.
Yeah. As I like to say, I'm from Armagh, where hurling's nearly illegal. So it was back to football for me.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. We've a great social hurling scene up here, and I'm gonna sort of throw myself in. Actually, they played you guys, your development squad there a few weeks ago. Lurgan Social Hurling.
Lurgan Social. We played in the competition. We played in the competition a few weeks ago where we played the Derry Social Hurlers, the Belfast Social Hurlers, and then a brand new team from North Belfast called the Henry Joys. Named after Henry Joy McCracken, and their camogie team. Their team were named after Mary Ann McCracken, who's his sister, and we played them, and that was all like a fun day we had, and it was hosted up in Owen Beg, which is where Derry actually train and play some of their county games, and it's the closest I'm ever going to get to hurling at a county pitch, so I was fucking delighted. Well,
at least you can say you got that far, further than most. Considering that hurling is insanity on a pitch, but
It's actually poetry when played by the right people.
Oh, poetry when played by the right people. I got a hurley master. You know, one of the rebounder nets.
Yeah, I
So
have one in the back garden.
so I was going up. I'm lucky enough here to live at just the back of a little park in Lurgan, Lord Lurgan Memorial Park, just all full of football pitches and stuff, and there's a little playground for the kids, and it's great. It's literally our backyard, and it's fantastic. So I would go up there with a bag of balls and whatever it is, and knock a few balls about. I ended up, I wasn't good enough to even hit the balls without losing them all the fucking time. So I says, and they're not cheap, as you know. So I says, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get one of these rebounders, and I'm going to start practicing properly in the backyard. Because much like yourself, I haven't hit a ball with a hurl in decades. So I just started knocking the balls about. Ah, fucking hell! And lost every neighbour in the fucking estate has a hurl or sliotar in their backyard belonging to me, and then they think it belongs to the wee fella, the wee child, the other side of the fence. So he gets all my balls. they keep throwing them over to him, and then I have to go, excuse me, missus, can I have my balls back? I'm near fucking 50. Can I have my fucking balls back? But I feel confident enough now to line out. I'm going to go out and join the social hurlers, because I don't think I'll make a complete arse out of myself.
Well, that's the whole point of social hurling. There's social hurling in Lisburn. Social hurling is this great mix of people who want to try, and maybe guys who played it for 20, 30 years, and then they're kind of retired out, but they sort of miss it, because once you retire, what do you do? Like I'm 35, I'm hanging in there. Most boys are done by now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, I still really enjoy this. I need to try and keep fit and get out of the house a couple of nights a week and keep the head right. So I do that by obviously going out and being massively violent on a football field. But It's trying to teach the guys. Like, I play hurling and football, and I play football, and the boys are always laughing because they're like, "You're going to get booked. You're definitely going to get booked." And I'm like, "I'm not going to get booked. I've been doing this too long to get caught. Watch this."
Well, that's a part of the whole. I don't know if I started playing football again. 2 weeks I lasted. I
heard the podcast about it.
Oh my fucking god. It was an absolute fucking nightmare. I ended up with a massive fucking quad injury, and I started running again yesterday, so it wasn't that bad. But for whatever reason, just the action of kicking a ball just sent this shooting pain up my thigh. Well, what's this? Is this because I'm old now? Is this what happens? And apparently it is. So I had to abandon my fledgling. I was fully intended on becoming a midfield dynamo for Liverpool. Maybe to replace Gini Wijnaldum, but alas. So I'm going to have to see if I can line out for Armagh at the hurling. So just on that, Armagh beat. The reason I ask you this, because Armagh beat Antrim very well, I might add, for any Antrim men that might watch this. Armagh beat Antrim at the GAA football at the weekend. And you were telling me earlier on that, that's us through to the semi-finals now. You think you might be getting a ticket to the semi-finals?
I'm waiting to hear. So through our connections of the Injury Time podcast, which is something I host with another very funny man called Jordan Robinson, who I have got. The man is now obsessed with hurling, loves the Gaelic sports. I was like, watch this, and he's completely in love with it. He's got in contact with somebody who we think might be able to blag us some tickets for the semi-final, which is the Monaghan Armagh game. Monaghan obviously being our neighbours, not probably as big a rivals as Down or Tyrone, but still you want to beat the neighbours. You don't want to give them bragging rights. Maybe they're coming down to Armagh, filling up the car for cheap, and then heading back down there. And what do you getting think? A bit of shopping in the town, beating us and then leaving.
If you're from Monaghan, you know what he means. And what do you think? How do you think we'll do?
I think we've as good a chance as any. We didn't get to play them this year in Division 1 because of the COVID thing. They split the division, so it was all very confusing. But yeah, we've as good a chance as any. How we do in an Ulster final after that is a completely other podcast. But
no, it's a bit of a.
Let's get there first.
Let's face it, it's a bit of a step up. Once you get to the final, you're dealing with a different. But we are we are supposed to be able to compete with these boys. So fingers crossed with that. Right, so we'll move on. Oh, right, let's see if this fucking theme thing works, will we?
This is so weird because we're on like a live stream. You can hear it, but I can't. So I'm just sitting here going, I hope that's working.
There we go. It's working. Hey, so we're going to move on to the next section. So basically what I'm going to do with these podcasts going forward, whenever I talk to a guest, we're going to talk about a few things, hopefully a few humorous things, but we're going to talk about a serious issue as well, depending on the guest, of course. Darren, being a Renaissance man and general man of the world, is well fit to talk about most things. So he's a good guy. So we're going to. He'll be challenged with these articles. So I did send him this article earlier on, and we're going to talk. Just pop it up on screen there. There it is. Just move it out of the way of Darren's face. Brian Feeney, right? So Brian Feeney writes for the Irish News, or is it? It is the Irish News, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is it Irish Times, that one you sent me?
Is it the Irish Times? I can never remember whether he's Irish News or Irish Times. But either way, is at the point. He's a great guy, and he's a good writer, and he I found myself being becoming a little bit of a Brian Feeney fanboy, because he does an article every week, and every week it drops, I get it, and then I end up reading it out on the podcast. It feels like. So, this one is titled, "The Tide Has Turned in Border Poll Debate." So, a really wee bit, and the whole, as I was saying, the point that we're going to do with these podcasts, hopefully, is we'll talk about serious stuff, relatively, and we'll discuss them, and then we'll finish with our wee culture-y bit. So I'll have a wee read, and then when we get to something interesting, I will throw it open to the floor. What about that? So here we go. Have you noticed how the tide's been turning? In 2018, Simon Coveney said it was unwise and unhelpful. That was only 3 fucking years ago. Think about that. To talk about a border poll. Irish unity wasn't on the Fine Gael agenda. It was an aspiration. He wasn't alone in those views either. In his party, or the prevailing attitude in the Dáil. That is so true. Repeatedly, senior figures in the old Civil War parties would intervene to say it was premature to talk about a border poll. It was divisive, destabilising and irrelevant. Slapping down talk about a border poll was a way of isolating Sinn Féin. Intellectual dishonesty was the prevailing line. People were accused of calling for a border poll and creating instability, even though the accusers knew perfectly well that no one was calling for an immediate border poll, but instead asking specifically for preparations to be made for one, given the experience of the disastrous outcome of the unplanned Brexit referendum in 2016. Political leaders in the South wouldn't say why they wouldn't prepare for one. They preferred to answer a question that wasn't asked. So we'll just pause there. And that's so true, Darren. That was the whole point. I remember that. And I specifically remember that being mentioned about in relation to Brexit, because Brexit was such a disaster. But you saw it being played out in real time. We all knew it was a disaster. I think we all secretly hoped that no, surely they're not this cavalier. They're going to have plans. They're just winding us up. They are playing sort of like they're acting like they're sort of loosey, and they're just going to. It's all going to cohere together. And obviously it didn't. So then whenever the border poll gets brought up, and Brian Feeney, I think he nailed it on the head. No one's asking for a border poll tomorrow. But we need to start having the conversation. What do you think?
I actually was chatting to this with a friend of mine who's from kind of a more unionist and loyalist background.
Aye.
And I said to him, I was like, do you know if you want to beat a border poll? I said, tell the unionists to call for it, but they want it tomorrow. And it'll be defeated because it hasn't been talked about. I was like, if you literally took the initiative on this,
yep,
this discussion would be ended tomorrow, because people will go, hang on, lads, we haven't fucking organised anything. You can't just do this tomorrow.
Completely. So, and there's also another way that they could win, that the unionist side could win a border poll, is make the Northern Ireland Protocol work. Yeah,
here, if it's the basis of, you know, the jobs for the people. If people are comfortable in their life, then they're not gonna panic. But if we continue to live in this instability where we have I mean, it's nearly like the two main parties. It kind of suits them when the place doesn't work. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
proves both their points,
Yeah.
while we, the working classes and the peasants suffer. You know what I mean?
Well, exactly. It's exactly the point that I've been making this point from I started this podcast. The reason I started this podcast was to advocate for a new Ireland. We're going to use that I use that word, that language, a new Ireland, and it means an inclusive Ireland for everybody, unionists, loyalists included. And I understand why loyalists and unionists don't want it, because it's in there. It's died in. It's in the bread that they don't want a united Ireland. They don't want a new Ireland. But the best way for them to secure that going forward, because since the Good Friday Agreement, we're governed by consent. So if the people want, the people get. The best way for them to secure it is to make Northern Ireland work. How do you make Northern Ireland work? You put money in people's pockets. You give them a great healthcare system. You give them a great education system, and you give them opportunities to move through the social strata, which is all the measures by which we measure that we consider these things to be a success. And you do that. Throw up a border poll. So work on the Northern Ireland Protocol for a year. Say we want a border poll at the end of August 2021. 22, should say. And that's it. And then you guys, if you lose it, you just have to fuck off for a year. But their strategy is to make the protocol work. They've won the border poll. They're putting money in people's pockets. Their children aren't leaving the island. They're leaving the north for the first time since the north started. They're staying here. You know what I mean? It's absolutely fucking bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, like I come from a family of mass immigration. I'm sure.
Yeah.
You're the same. Like my grandfather's family, the real sad story. I mean, once partition happened, they were actually from Lisburn. They were burnt out. Some of them moved to Newry, and then the other ones just fucking scattered to the wind. Yeah. I have relatives all over the world, I'm sure, and we don't know where. Yeah. If you went to England, if you went to America, that was only one generation. A generation later, my grandmother's family, family of 6 children. Sorry, 3 of them left. One to America, one to Australia, one to England.
Wow.
Madness. Just that's why we're everywhere, because, and especially if you look at the immigration or the emigration rates of Northern Ireland, it literally goes 1969, 1970, and then it's up. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a ramp. It looks like they've hit the ramp and took off over it.
Absolutely. And
I've been an economic immigrant in places as well. I moved to Australia to have a better life and make money. I did that. I came home with I've done that. You've done that. You worked in England, didn't you?
I've worked all over the world. I've lived in Greece and France and, everywhere. I've done all sorts of things.
Better. If it was great, you'd fucking stay.
Well, this is the whole point, Darren, and it's actually, it's not what we're going to talk about today, but it is something I'm talking with Jerry Carroll tomorrow, and I'm going to bring it up with him about the housing crisis in the south. And that's doing exactly the same thing. You know what I mean? It's driving a generation of young people who literally can't afford to rent a fucking house. Well, what do you think they're going to do? Live in a dog fucking kennel? They're going to move. So you're doing that to your own people. You're doing that to your own country, and it is by design, and it is being done. I can demonstrate, a fucking brain dead idiot like me can show you how the government have made this policy that someone can't afford a fucking £1,200 mortgage because they're paying €2,500 a month in rent. You know what I mean?
I am from a little village called Bessbrook in Armagh. Yeah. Bessbrook is about a mile from the motorway, and it's about 10 minutes to the border. And if you live there, we actually have a mass amount of people who have bought houses in Bessbrook who work in Dublin. I worked in Dublin myself, even though I'm from the Brook. We would drive up and down. So you can buy a house in Bessbrook for, let's say, 140 grand, 150. Yeah. If you were paying that in rent, you're paying fucking $2,000 a month in Dublin for a 1-bedroom fucking bedsit. Why would you not have a 4-bedroom house and just travel? Of course that makes sense.
Of course. I know a couple that are moving back to Lurgan. They were working in Dublin, in Kildare. They're working all around that area, and they're moving back to Dublin. They're moving back to Lurgan. One of them is from Lurgan. The other one isn't. They're moving back to Lurgan. In the next couple of weeks, they're buying a house just up the road here, just up the way. I'm delighted to see them back. But obviously, they need to be in Dublin. That's where their work is. And they literally can't do it. It's financially impossible. They cannot be done. But I digress. I'm going to talk with Jerry about that tomorrow because the people before profit are big on that sort of stuff. So I'll push on with this article. The exception was Micheál Martin, who invented his meaningless shared island unit, rejected by all shades of unionism, so instantly dead on arrival, as a distraction from all talk about Irish unity. At the launch of a shared island plan in October 2020, he declared that there would be no border poll in the next 5 years. It was not on his government's agenda. Martin's policy was instead a futile project, first to appease unionism, altogether now, to achieve reconciliation, that helpfully undefined chimera, which he falsely claims was the aim of the Good Friday Agreement. Fortunately, Martin is a lame duck Taoiseach who will be history in November 22. So it's difficult to see how he can talk about 2025. And I remember that Micheál Martin went on to the Claire Byrne show on RTE, and it drove me fucking nuts. I couldn't believe what he was saying. We need to bring unionism into. Have you met fucking unionism? Are you not, are your eyes closed, man? Can you not see that you're wasting your fucking time? And then, it's the thing that bugs me. I understand that we do have to, of course, consider unionism and loyalism and all isms are. Everybody has to have a voice at the table. But whenever Micheál Martin is talking, and whenever Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil politicians in general are talking, they never consider nationalists. They don't ask about they just dismiss us as though our opinion is not to be considered, taken seriously, or it's not grown up enough. Everything's about appeasing unionism. Nothing's about the status quo that remains that is on the ground. That there are a lot of people living in the north of Ireland that want to appease unionism, want to bring unionism into the table and loyalism into the family, but they don't fucking want to come. And you get that point where you go, well, what does that mean? I have to sit here and suck eggs because they don't want. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, from that, I kind of have sort of a story from either side, which, and this is the main thing that bugs me about this, is the fact that we still have to say sides. Yes. I chatted with Linda Irvine about this, we talked about the Irish language, and we talked about like Gaelic sports and stuff, and I said I just needed to get to a point where we stop saying communities and sides, and it's just us. It's all of us. That's what I want. That's what I need to.
And that's the goal.
That's what I want in my new Ireland. I want it to be all of us.
Absolutely. I commented on there was a loyalist commentator. He was, which is his right. He was commenting on Twitter about this massive fucking bonfire up in Larne. The thing was, Jesus Christ, the Tower of Babel. It was huge, and he was commenting on, and the thing he says, well done to the local organisers to build this fantastic thing, this expression of culture that the entire community can enjoy. And I just sort of commented under it and put it in inverted brackets. I said, entire community. That's what we want, is for the entire community to enjoy it. But you've covered it in fucking the flags of the Ivory Coast and God knows what else. You know what I mean? It's just it's a complete detached from reality.
See, I don't mind a bonfire, but it has to be the pagan style Halloween end of. I love a good solstice, start of winter. I want to go back to paganism when everything was better crack.
Me too. Absolutely. Yeah. That's what I want to do.
You drank more, you were outside more, you probably get the ride more.
Yeah.
You know?
And you don't feel guilty for fucking doing it. And
no repression.
We do that as well. We light bonfires and all the solstices and all, hang our wee ribbons out for the fairies and do all this sort of stuff. And it's lovely and the kids love it and it's fantastic. And
see, that's way more fun.
Of course it's fucking way more fun. But that's what I mean. I've obviously, much like yourself, I would be we were both raised Catholic, of course. I don't consider myself to be a Catholic at all, and I have lots and lots and lots of problems with the Catholic Church. I'm going to be talking about it in the podcast coming up about what's going on in Canada at the minute with the Indigenous people. They found all these mass burial pits of Indigenous children, hundreds of bodies, and fair play to the Indigenous the First Nations people, they're called, in Canada. They've set fire to they burned a couple of churches to the ground. They're not happy about it at all, and neither they should. And I remember saying it at the time, whenever we had the paedophile scandal in Ireland, which was over 20 years ago now. I can't believe there was a Catholic church left standing after what they did, because it was that bad. Nothing happened. People stopped going, to be fair, but the Catholic Church is still running. They're still up for the running the maternity, mother and baby, the maternity hospital in Dublin, and etc. etc. So not much has changed. I personally have no problem with people and their faith, Catholic, Protestant, Muslims, whatever. Fair play to you if it brings you peace and joy, and it means that you do good things in the world. I think it's brilliant. I really do. I don't share it. I don't. But I appreciate it, and I appreciate that you maybe get something out of it that I don't, and that's fucking brilliant. And absolutely, everybody's got the right to do that.
Yeah. Well,
but we're talking about the institutions that seem to be built on inherent cruelty sometimes, and the historical examples of it are just they're I'm going to say that they're coming out of the woodwork, but they're not. They're coming. It's like a fucking waterfall of tragedy and outrage just every day. It's just this new thing. In Australia they found this, and in South America they found that, and in Canada they found this. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's sort of history coming back. The Canadian thing is pretty much what's here. I when I lived in Canada, one of my jobs was I was a football coach.
Yeah.
Or sorry, to any Canadians listening, I was a soccer coach, and I got to go and stay. Yeah, I went and stayed in a place called Sault Ste. Marie, which was one of the towns. And I actually so whenever you're doing that, you have a host family for the week. So the host family, you go and stay with them.
Yeah.
So I got to stay with all these lovely Canadian families for a summer that were very, very nice. One of the families I got to stay to, and this is where the people have the wrong attitude as well.
Yeah.
My boss, who was an English guy, he said, Darren, because I was a little bit older than some of the other guys, he was like, I'm really sorry, but he was like, the family they're taking you're going to go stay on the Indian reservation. And I was like, I think he called them Indigenous people, but okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he was like, oh, like this was going to be a bad thing. I was so up for this. They were the fucking sweetest people. They were apart from when one of them called me English, and I was like, hang on a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was staying with an Indigenous family, and they had their 3 kids, and they all played soccer, and
yeah.
They were great. I've never been treated as well in my life. And
can I ask you, did you enjoy elements of their culture in their day-to-day life, or has that all been wiped out of existence, like the Empire tended to do?
Sadly to say, it wasn't. It wasn't all peace pipes and beautiful teepees and all. They were living in government housing. They didn't pay taxes, which is pretty much shut up money. It's go away money. You need a new car, you don't pay tax on it. You fuel it up, you don't pay tax on it. So they could go to. They had their own doctors, they had their own schools, and they were like, "Oh, isn't this brilliant? We got this for free." And I was like, "No, this is to keep you quiet."
Yeah, exactly.
I was fucking furious, but I'm like, "This is not my place to say this to people. That this is like they're like, oh, we get all this stuff separate," and I was just like, "This is segregation."
Yeah,
they've segregated you from the rest of their society, and they've made it that they've tricked you into thinking this is good.
Yeah,
they're like, "Oh, we're saving money." I'm like, they're literally. They have mass amounts of substance abuse, mass amounts of alcoholism in the communities.
Yeah.
And this isn't looked at. And there's very, very low rates of kids from there that would go to university and stuff. Yeah. Even though there is grants, but it's all, oh, sorry money is what they call it.
Yeah. One of the things I found, I know we're straight off the topic here, but one of the things I heard, maybe it was last year, the year before, the amount of young women from the Indigenous and the First Nations people of North America, the young women, the rape and the murder, the amount that they disappeared. They're disappeared, a shocking degree. And then whenever the police do their statistics, so they do a study, they're not included in the statistics, so nobody knows exactly how many it is. But now, through from what people have grown up with knowing, they realise that this is a real fucking problem. And they actually reckon that the classic North American serial killer for decades has been focusing on the Indigenous peoples and the First Nations peoples. Because
no one's looking for them.
No one's looking for them, and they don't have the They don't have the police within the reservations. You know, they don't have that to be able to
Yeah.
do the investigations as necessary. Shocking.
Yeah, it's the same as it's pretty much the same as when I was in Australia as well. If you want to see if you want to look at a system that's broken,
Yeah.
when I lived in Australia, the Minister for Indigenous Affairs was not an Indigenous person. It was just an old white guy. So I'm like, you can do better than this. You know what I mean?
That's ridiculous.
Go and find a person to represent their people. That's what it should be. But yeah, it's I did see that thing about. I mean, you want to talk about like. I think we all like Canadians, and I loved living in Canada, but
Yeah.
their history is fucking dark.
Yeah. Well, again,
Yeah.
well, of course it is.
From the empire.
Of course it is. Of course it is. All where white people move where they're not supposed to be. It's dark. You know, the people that lived there didn't just say, "Come on in, have it." You know, that it was taken.
Yeah.
And the thing, the defending of the empire, it is something that makes me sick to my stomach whenever I hear people, you know, making it out. They make it out like it's a good thing, and that just that gets on my nerves. And it's sort of. I have to suppress the rebel that wants to come up and say, hold on a minute, you know, and give them a bit of a fucking history lesson, because you're not obviously always able to do that, and you don't want to be shouting at people about these things. But here, listen, I'll move on, and we're not going to get through this at all. So, back to Brian Feeney's article. In the meantime, the ground has shifted beneath it. So, Micheál Martin had said that he wasn't thinking about a border poll. So in the meantime, the ground has shifted beneath Martin's feet. He has been overtaken by events and political developments. 3 weeks ago, Leo Varadkar told his parties, Ardèche, that it was their mission to achieve a united Ireland, which he believed would be achieved in his lifetime. A fortnight ago, in an online discussion, Coveney, in a reversal of his position held until 2020, said it was perfectly legitimate to talk about Irish unity on a border poll. He added that while Unionists and even British politicians regularly talked up the UK, the precious union, they object when Irish politicians talk about unity, an aim they are entitled to pursue. And that's a thing, I can see you nodding your head in agreement. The pearl clutching among unionist politicians, say unionists, I mean when I'm talking about political unionism, the pearl clutching whenever a politician talks about a united Ireland is unbelievable. The shock that comes up, but they're perfectly, the point that Brian Feeney's making is that they're perfectly entitled to talk about Northern Ireland remaining within the Union, but you talk about a united Ireland and all of a sudden it's like they're genuinely shocked, genuinely offended. Offended is the word I would use.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to, I mean, the same guy I had the discussion about.
Yeah.
I said to him, I was like, man, if you look at this, I was like, unionism and loyalism. I said, I don't get how you can keep going back when they keep treating you so shit.
Yeah.
I said, this is like going back to a woman that cheats on you all the time.
Yeah.
And that was the analogy I used. I said, this is like going back to a woman that cheats on you all the time.
Yeah.
And my friend's response to that was, because obviously I think he's very much of the no never backs to the wall kind of thing.
Yeah.
And his response to that was, he said to me, well, you're saying if it's like, what if it's like a woman who's always cheating on you? He said, what if it's the only place you can get a ride? And I was like, and there you have it.
Yeah. Well,
I said that is the blinders are on, man.
That is the blinders are on.
I can't even convince you. And I've explained to him that I don't want him. I was like, I don't want you to join up with what is presently in Dublin. This has to be an entirely new. I don't want to join up with what's presently in Dublin.
They're worse, for fuck's sake. They're terrible. Yeah. We don't want those, but we can get rid of them. I was reminded of a tweet that John. By the way, if you don't follow Lord John Kilclooney's Twitter account, you fucking should. It's the gift that keeps on giving. His boys think it's a parody. It's that funny. He doesn't mean to be. It's stuff that he says. Yeah. And I'm reminded of something that he tweeted out a few months back. He said, do these and you know how he talks, he's very down his nose at everybody because he's now in the House of Lords.
He's a lord. Yeah.
He's a lord. Lord John Kilclooney. Fuck you. He's peasant. And he says, do these United Islanders realise that the Unionist bloc, if it goes to the Dáil, will have something like 15% of the voting rights, whereas in the Commons, whereas within the House of Commons we only have 0.8%, because we've only got 12 MPs or something, and everyone's going, yes, you fucking right, we do realise this. This is the fucking point. You will have more say. Your voice will be listened to. That's exactly what we fucking want, you dick. You know what I mean? It's staggering, and that's that unionist mindset. And the reason that I think that unionist mindset with the backs against the wall thing worked, or the reason that it still exists, is because for so long it worked. We get what we want. Now it doesn't work, and it saw them literally staring down the dead end of the thing that they want least, which is a united Ireland. They're looking at it, and I understand why they're, spooked.
I have sort of 2 points I want to make. I fully understand why someone who is of a unionist background or loyalist background doesn't want a united Ireland. It's fear. It's a fear. And I said to a friend of mine, this is a friend of mine who has a bit of Protestant guilt, by the way, for sort of how things have panned out. And I said, as
opposed to Catholic guilt for having a wee wank every now and again?
As opposed to Catholic guilt. Yeah. Every now and again. Don't get me started. But I said, do you think it's a fear? I said, are Protestants worried if a United Ireland happens in the morning, they're going to get treated in a manner where once partition happened, there were people's houses burned, and I was like, it's not the fucking 20s anymore. We cannot allow that to happen. You can't be going around singing songs about how fucking oppressed you are and then turn into a bastard. We already did that. It was called the Irish Civil War, and we're not going to do that again.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah. Exactly.
This is the point I was making. And then
it's a good
the other
point
is there anything more hurtful? Like I'm from the north, if you want, or Northern Ireland, the north of Ireland, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. There's nothing more hurtful to me than a partitionist Irishman.
Oh.
To be called a Brit by someone who I deem to be my countryman, and I deem unionists and loyalists to be my countrymen as well.
Heartbreaking.
That hurts worse. When I'm in Dublin, if somebody calls me a Brit, I'm always like, what the fuck?
I remember my first experience with that. I left here when I was 16, and I was over in England, keeping company with a few good lads. There was a few dickheads too. English boys that wanted to invade the south, never mind fucking not give back the north. And a couple of boys was asking me, all southern English, which shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. All the good ones were Scousers and fucking Geordies and all the rest of it. But one of the boys was saying to me, what do the people of the south think about the north? This is in 1988, mind. 88, 89, 90. It was around that time, so the Troubles weren't fucking full swing. And I said, well, there was a guy that hung out with us. He was a Dublin fella. I says, well, why don't you fucking ask one? He's right there. So he said, well, what do you think? And he said, he said this, and I swear to God, the answer, I can still feel the knife going straight into my back and piercing my broken wee Lurgan heart. And he said, you know what we should do? In that great Dublin accent, you know what we should do? We wish we would get a fucking 1,000 JCBs and go up around the border and dig a big fucking trench and just kick it off out into the fucking sea. And I was expecting them to say, oh, we want it fucking back. God damn, we want it out. You have no place having it. And that's what he said. And I'd never considered it before, because only 16, 17, I didn't know too much. I didn't realise that it was a bloody thing. He just completely let me down in front of all these Englishmen. I was devastated.
No, that's a fairly common occurrence of, don't be bringing your trouble down here. My dad told me when Armagh got very badly beaten by Dublin in the 1977 All-Ireland final. My father was at it, and he said when they were driving back up the road, they were throwing rocks at the buses and cars. Get back up, get away, get out of here.
Jesus, that's shocking.
Because there was a period in the 90s when the Ulster counties were and the Northerners.
Oh
were
yeah.
Winning,
I remember it very well.
That was not liked. No. That was not liked at all.
And
the Brits winning the All Ireland.
They even had a problem with the type of football we were playing. I remember, it still goes on to this day. But I know it's on, but you're right. That partitionist fucking thing
So that idea is Micheál Martin. That's what that is, and that's Leo 3 years ago. And are they maybe clicking onto this because Sinn Féin's popularity has gone up in the south, and one of their big pushes is a
that's
new Ireland, the United Ireland?
exactly what's happening here. Is so
Yeah.
all of a sudden, Micheál Martin, Leo Varadkar, and Simon Coveney have considered the Republicans after all, and due to the rise, which obviously it's due to the rise in the popularity with Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin are far and away, their ground game. To be honest, well, whether you like Sinn Féin or not, whether you vote for them or not, is neither here nor there. I'm not talking about that. Their ground game on this island is fucking unbelievable. But what they're talking about is real working class issues. So down south, it's housing, and we all know the difference between Sinn Féin in the north and Sinn Féin in the south. There is a difference, and it's almost two parties to a certain degree, not quite as much as it's portrayed. But we do have a unique political realpolitik in the north, so that it should be a bit different. And the other thing that when it comes to voting for people like Sinn Féin or Ulster Unionists or whoever it is, it doesn't matter. Because you get a dickhead that says something wrong or does something wrong, it doesn't mean that that's what the party is. But because of the media is so invested in trying to bring down Sinn Féin, especially in the south, it gets amplified, and then that message gets used in the north to scare our unionists and loyalist brothers and sisters away from considering the south. To answer your to bring up the point you brought up a moment ago, sure, we're going to go down there and we're going to get our houses burnt. We're going to get burnt out if we join up there. They're going to do to us what we did to them, 100 years ago.
Yeah. No, it has to be the idea of I mean, not that it's worked out fantastically in the long run, but the new Rainbow Nation, the kind of Nelson Mandela South Africa thing, where he was like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Where it was
absolutely.
like, it's our turn. You're like, no, not doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think, and as you know, it's a load of bollocks. We don't have. There's absolutely no interest in that. It's funny. I have an article snipped. I'm not going to throw it up now, but it's about people in the loyalist areas in the north, and they're being propagandized against. There was a journalist went and spoke to the people. Do you know what the benefits of the protocol are? And there was a community worker come out, a proper community worker come out. There was not one of the cocaine dealing community workers. I was a proper community worker, and she said to the journalist, she says, "These people have been propaganda." It was her words. These people have been propagandized. They have no idea that the protocol has a benefit attached to it. They don't get it. They just hear the negative all the time, and that's why they're being as vociferous as they are.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting down to the point of the daftness of when. I mean, see, to be honest with you, sometimes I don't even fucking check the news. I have Twitter. That's enough bile and poison in my life. So, if you,
isn't that the truth?
I come at it from a really, not even a really weird perspective. There's lots of people like me. I'm a real middle of the road, but I'm from a mixed area, so I've had full integration all my life.
Yeah.
It was only when I moved to Belfast I experienced proper sectarianism, and I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
Because I was, I did a thing about Bestbrook for BBC, and I was like, "This is one of the only places in the world you can go watch an Orange Parade, and you can come watch a hurling match after."
Yeah.
Because I from this little microcosm, so people hear that I'm from South Armagh and think I'm from fucking like Crossmaglen and it's real Republican. I'm like, no, I'm from this wee bit beside Newry, where Quakers built the village and went, "We don't care who you are, move in and work for us." Yeah. And then people integrated, intermarried, interbred.
Yeah.
Inbreeding being the problem in fucking small villages in Ireland. But this gave me a completely unique. My street alone was, like the little Catholic house, the little Protestant house, the little mixed marriage, and then the little Catholic house, the little Protestant house. We were like just this one street was just a mix of everybody. My next door neighbours were Free Presbyterians. Some of them were in the Orange Order. But when they were kids, they would have come and played Gaelic football with us. Kids are the future, because once you get to a certain age and somebody gets in your fucking ear, then you get tuned on to things. But I come from a family that's very socialist, working class. I mean, we're not even that Republican. We're a bit more fucking SDLP in my house, you know what I mean? So it's like very much more, because my folks remember what it was like when you couldn't get a job and you couldn't vote. My parents are old enough. So they're like, you're lucky. You fucking enjoy what you have and use it. My mum is very adamant on us voting in my house. I have 3 brothers. She said, people fucking marched and died. Go and use your vote.
Yeah.
That's the background I come from. An appreciation that I didn't suffer what other people did to give me what I have.
100%. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I was, again, just on that same point. I loved it. I threw it up on Twitter today, retweeted it. And it was we village Crumlin up the road there. And it said,
yes.
This village is majority nationalist now. And the Orange Arch goes up. And we wouldn't have it any other way. And we want it to go up. And we want the people to have their parade and their commemorations and and to do their thing. And then as a courtesy from the Orange to the villagers, the other villagers that live in this village with them, they don't fucking festoon the place with Union Jacks, paramilitary flags, and paint the curbs red, white, and blue. They just have their thing.
very much the same where I'm from.
Yeah, and that's the way it fucking should be. That's exactly the way it should be. I commented on that. Somebody threw up a picture of a bonfire, and it was a few years ago. There was somebody. They put up an effigy of someone hanging, like they'd hung themselves. And what it was a loyalist, there was a local priest, had hung himself. So when they came around to the bonfire, they threw the tricolours and the Sinn Féin posters up, and they put up this effigy, and it was supposed to represent this priest hanging himself, and they were going to burn it. And I said, if you call this culture, I can't get on board with this. This is not culture. Despite what you say, you can do it if you want, but I don't think that this is culture, and I can't support you in this. And then a guy replied, and he says, well, what about this? It was obviously from one of our loyalist brothers and sisters, and it was from a bonfire in Derry from a few years ago where they had pictures of policemen that had been shot. And I said, well, I can't support that either. And whenever their bonfire goes up, and if they do that, I'll condemn it too, because it's not culture. It's not what we're talking about here. I want you to have your bonfire. I want to go to your fucking bonfire. I want you to have your orange marches and do all the things that you consider to be important, because whether you think of it or whether you like it or not, orange culture is unique. We can strip the old hate out of it and keep the good, whatever it is. But that's for the orange to present. The loyalists need to present that. It's like, you can't tell, like, it's like this whole New Ireland debate. I can sit here and you can sit here and we can talk about what it's going to be like for loyalists and unionists. But if loyalists and unionists don't get up and fucking start talking and making the demands themselves, I can't make a demand for them. Well, I would throw it back the same way. If you want the orange to become acceptable, you need to do the groundwork to acknowledge, first of all, the hate that's attached to it, where it come from, strip out the genuine expressions of culture that are unique across this planet, are old, are hundreds of years old, and deserve to be fucking acknowledged and celebrated and kept going. But you can't turn around and the marches that you saw growing up as a kid, 100%. The expression of community solidarity that they've got going on in places like Crumlin, 100%. And then you've got a loyalist bonfire up in Belfast where there obviously is just an expression of hate. And you need to separate those two, and it's the Orange that need to do it. They need to do it. They need to go, we want you to accept us. That's not us. That's not us. We can't have that.
There's if you follow unionist commentator Choya, he's on Twitter. He does some of the Slugger O'Toole's.
Yes.
I enjoy his writing because I'm actually very annoyed that man has to remain anonymous, because I think he makes great points and he's very level-headed and very even. And he talks about the bonfires, and he said one of the issues is the Orange Order themselves do not have control of some of these areas. Now, there are those community ones where the council build them, the beacons, which the whole point was, as I've learned, is that this is the maddening thing as well. I know why people like bonfires on the 11th night. Do the people going to the 11th night bonfires know why? That's it.
It's a King Billy, the lighting away for King Billy going down through Belfast Lock, all that stuff.
That's it. They lit fires on top of the mountains in Antrim and Down, and I'm like, Right, that's historical.
That's
That's
legit.
culturally something that's important that you be doing.
Yeah.
At what point did King Billy fire a fucking tricolour on it, or a photo of an alliance councillor who said maybe we shouldn't be building these bonfires as big lads?
Yeah. Exactly.
Here's the one I can't get is why are they burning alliance posters whenever the alliance are a pro-union party? What are you doing?
But that is exactly, that to me illustrates exactly the incoherence that is around the modern unionist and loyalist argument.
It's the snake eating its own tail. It's just
The snake eating its own tail. They literally are stomping about the world, falling out with everybody. They're just going out of their way to make enemies. When you consider what you need, the European Union, they're in the Ra. The British government, they're in the fucking Ra. Fucking the Irish government, they're all in the Ra. Joe Biden is the fucking Ra. Let's not get started about, you just can't, you need to stop, calm yourself fucking down. Look to what you can do. And I've been saying it for years from I started this podcast, because it was kind of the point of me starting it. There's a clear route to victory for unionism and loyalty. Make the fucking Northern Ireland Protocol work. Make Northern Ireland a valued part of the union. Then you will get support from within the constituent parts of the union. And the average person in Northern Ireland who is maybe a Catholic but not a nationalist, and maybe a Protestant but not a hard loyalist, maybe they're union. I mean, they'll go with where the good life is. You got their vote. You've got their vote. For years it was always, well, what about the NHS? The NHS is fucked now. You can't use that for an argument anymore. So you need to make the Northern Ireland Protocol work. There's a clear path to victory. They won't take it. Right, I'll push on with this. Otherwise we're going to be here all fucking night. And we got to watch this England-Denmark match. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So last paragraph. However, the timeline indicates that Fine Gael had begun their conversation to the merits of planning for a border poll sometime before that arrogant colonial intrusion from the pro-consul. Polling results have also figured as a factor. Not just that Sinn Féin have consistently polling level, or even ahead of Fine Gael, but that the polls indicate that young voters are attracted to a new Ireland. And there's more than that, though. Other figures like Fianna Fáil's Jim O'Callaghan, Fine Gael's Neil Richmond have put in their spoke on the question on the referendum on Irish unity. Bertie Ahern thinks that there will be one by 28 and urges preparation. Last week, in an opinion piece, Mary McAleese invoked the sainted memory of John Hume to recommend planning and preparation. Others will follow. The plan to shut down the discussion on a referendum has failed. The tide has turned, and that genie is not going back into that bottle. Never. It's out now. No, the onus is on the people that want the United Ireland, north and south of the border, to make the argument work. We can't go into this like the British went into the fucking Brexit debate, completely unprepared. If we want, it is, they say that Scottish unity it was a once in a lifetime referendum. This is going to be a once in a lifetime referendum. I know the Scots are looking at another go at it, and they may get it. We're not going to get another go at this. And do we really want a United Ireland if we're not ready? If we haven't laid the ground, if things aren't ready to go, we need to prepare.
No, I mean, I don't want. Yeah. What's the point of working so hard to, manufacture some form of stability after fucking decades of killing each other? When we could, what are we going to do instead? It's Yeah, but it has to be, as you say, we have to get somebody. Look, you and I, you may say I'm a dreamer, but at least I'm not the only one. So it's that idea. But you know what? Maybe not even. People say they're poisoned by hate. Maybe we're fucking hypnotized by all of our arts and culture and all those great things. And I'm very punk rock, and we should all be hanging out together and having a good time. But we do need people to come forward and go, this is what I want. If we're going to do that, I want this. And I'm like, right, let's talk about that. But somebody has to come forward from a unionist perspective, and they will be branded a Lundy. The first person will definitely be called a Lundy.
Straight away.
For coming forward with that idea.
Yeah.
Secondly, there will be somebody probably in the south who will come forward and say, not a chance, we shouldn't do this. They're going to be a massive capitalist who's making a lot of money, bleeding their own people dry.
Yeah.
And this is then you have to get everyone in the middle. Their voice must be heard, but you're going to have the two extremes coming forward first. And I say it'll initially be probably very, very rocky.
Yeah.
Because the first time to do anything is usually pretty fucking sketchy. So
yeah.
we'll see what
Well,
happens.
it's all. I mean, I am hopeful. I can see it. But just as you said, it has to be done right. Now I'm going to call this. I'm going to read this article out real quick because it's funny as fuck, and it's sort of connected to what we're talking about. So we're just going to undo all the bridge building and outreach that we did in this podcast. We're just going to undo it now. So with this article from Waterford Whispers News, and
Absolutely.
it's titled "Unionist Just One More Pallet Away from Defeating Catholics," and it's obviously a reference to the fucking red, white, and blue fury that the loyalists have thrown themselves into erecting these fucking impressively massive but equally dangerous looking bonfires.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm going to read this real quick. It's only a paragraph, literally a couple of jokes. A local ardent unionist is revealed to have built such an impressive bonfire that he is just one more pallet away from defeating the scourge that is Catholicism in Northern Ireland and being awarded a Blue Peter badge by the Queen herself. Waterford Whispers News caught up with an excitable Martin Crozier, 24, as he put the finishing touches to a large collection of pallets that, once lit, will pose a genuine threat to the lives of those in nearby houses. And then the Queen will hug us and promise to never leave us, he says. And then the Fenians will have to be dyed orange from birth, and it's going to be brilliant. And if we're lucky, free hand jobs from the ghost of King William of Orange, Crozier said, barely catching his breath. It is still not clear how Crozier solved the Catholic issue and why his number of pallets will succeed with the previous year's pallet quota failed. I'm just one pallet away from everyone wearing sashes and marching every day of the year, he says. Oh, we'll feel so triumphant and complete, and maybe, if we ask nicely, we'll agree to economically eviscerate Ulster with the DUP endorsed hard Brexit, added Crozier, now just wiping tears of joy at the thought of being held in the arms of Kate Middleton, but not Meghan Markle, and being rocked to sleep like a newborn baby. Quickly grabbing all the all-important final pallet, Crozier began making his way up the bonfire structure while daydreaming of a Northern Ireland free of people his dad so lovingly told him to hate unconditionally. End of article. So, it's obvious. You gotta laugh, right? And
the problem with that is that party is based in some form of reality. That's where comedy comes from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absurdity is informed of the reality. So it's...
Yeah. You said you know a couple of them boys that write for Waterford Whispers, right?
I know one of the lads who does a bit of writing for them, but I'm not sure if I'm actually allowed to reveal who he is.
Oh, no, I understand.
I think I can. I think I can. He's not going to get in trouble for it. A very talented comedian from Monaghan called Jerry McBride. So go follow Jerry online. He's very, very funny as well. Brilliant. Even his own stuff's brilliant.
Brilliant.
But that I would, because I read a lot of stuff on Twitter, and even my grandmother used to tell me that in Bestbrook years and years ago, they used to have bonfires, the bonies, but they were like little beacon fires. People would have them in their gardens, and there was like tea parties, and it all sounded actually quite lovely.
Yeah,
and I would have been like, I would have went to that.
I would go to that. I would go to that.
Yeah, it sounds quite cool. And then
if they can make it a little bit less fucking horrible, I would go to that. And a little bit, by the way, in this age of where we need to be more environmentally aware, I do question the wisdom of burning a fucking mountain of tires and pallets.
Well, there's a whole thing. If you're one of the funded bonfires, you can't use tires. If you have tires, I think the council come and take them away.
That's fucking outrageous.
I'm not sure why you put fucking tires on it, because that's just loads of black smoke. Although I used to do a joke years ago. I used to do a joke about the bonfires, and apparently, you know, those blue pallets, because they're sprayed. Part of the paint off them is a wee bit carcinogenic.
Apparently.
So I was going to say, if people in Republican areas are complaining about bonfires, I was like, don't be complaining that you get rid of them. I was like, give them more blue pallets and tell them to stand closer. You know what I mean? What do you...
You're playing the long game. Is that what
Yeah, exactly. We're all playing the fucking long game. That's the problem.
There's no loyalists left. They all died of self-inflicted fucking lung cancer. So that's horrible.
No.
So here, right, we've shot over about 10 minutes and we're going to bang this real quick because England are playing Denmark. And so we're going to go for, I'll go first, the culture section. Let me just play my theme.
Go for it.
Why is it not working? Oh, there we go. Come on, you bastard. No. Ah. So this is a new segment. So this is gonna fade out skillfully, and you'll never even notice. There we go. So this is a book. I was recommended this. My wife Jeannie and I were both recommended. This is a book by a fella called Niall McCutcher. Can you see that?
Yeah, it says Ireland's Trees.
Ireland's Trees. Myths, Legends and Folklore. And it just arrived today. It's fucking brilliant because we're in the process of rewilding our garden. I'm not cutting fucking grass anymore. I want it wild. I want it properly the way it's supposed to be, all full of wildflowers and all lovely things. And I've stopped cutting the grass just a little over a month, and the improvement is 100% already. And there's not much there. There's daisies and dandelions and all things, but it's lovely. The wee bumblebee bees come along and do their business, and it's brilliant. So this book is my contribution to the culture of the politics culture and some other shit podcast. And what it does, the subtitle I should let you know is called Myths, Legends and Folklore. So what it does is, like, the bit about the hawthorn is one of my favourites, but I'm not going to read it because there's 3 or 4 pages. But it tells you about why the fairies love the hawthorn and why you shouldn't cut a hawthorn down.
Oh, the fairy tree! Don't be cutting them down.
Don't be cutting them down. There was as my cousin Barry reminded me the other week, they rerouted a motorway in Ennis because nobody wanted to cut down a hawthorn, and how they did. It cost millions, and no one would cut it down. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, so it tells you about the fairies, the relation to Celtic folklore, etc., the legends, etc., what it represents in the Ogham, and the ancient written language, that line thing that you see on dolmens and whatever, and there's 3 or 4 pages on each sort of plant or each sort of tree, and it's fucking great. And I love it. I love these books. You can just flip and open it up at a page and just go, oh, slowberries, what are they all about? Buckthorn, oh, what's that all about? And 3 or 4 pages, and it talks a bit further. It's fucking brilliant. There's a whole series of these plants, animals, etc., etc., and I'm going to get the whole lot of them. There's 3 or 4 other books in the series, so I'm going to recommend that. There we go. Darren?
Very cool. My one for this one is I am rocking a t-shirt today. It's not the X-Men. I know that's what it looks like, but it's not. This is a t-shirt of a very talented man called Alan Lynn, as he was known. Alan used to be the drummer in a band called The Pharaoh. He's also sat in for The Answer. He's been tour drummer for Therapy.
Yes.
He's been the tour drummer for Ash, I think, as well, whenever they were a wee bit busier. He's a great session musician, but he's also doing his own thing now called Exhaler.
Yes,
and
that's why I
nipped off and got a thing. Exhaler, which is a very, very fantastic thing. Now, this is like old music, everybody. It's not on Spotify. You have to go and give it an out Google. You'll find it. I think it's on a Bandcamp, and you buy the music. Remember that?
For fuck's sake, darn, it's fucking 2021. Fucking no use.
But that's how you do it. And if you don't want to buy the music, you can buy one of these lovely T-shirts, which I got off Alan. So it's fantastic. So that's my culture thing. If you love your post grunge and it's kind of. It's hard to describe. You like your sort of Wild Hearts, Nirvana.
Aye.
A lot of rock and roll with a bit of fuzz, a bit of dirt. It's really good. And Alan just plays everything on it. It's great. And he's got a couple of lovely guitars on the album.
Brilliant. Love it already. So I'm going to check that out. So what's the name? Alan Lynn? Exhaler.
But the band is Exhaler, yeah.
Right. Will you send me a wee link and I will stick that underneath in the podcast notes? And or I'll see if I can. I'm sure I can find it online. I'm sure it wouldn't be impossible.
And also keep an eye out for potentially a new album from another friend of mine, Jerry Norman, who does a band now called Tour Alaska. He's did his first album as a solo, and this second one I think he's going to have a full backing band. So Tour Alaska, go check them out as well. Very talented man, Jerry Norman, used to play in a band called A Plastic Rose.
Oh, brilliant! Oh yeah, I know those guys, of course. Yep, fantastic.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And do you know what? The album recommendations that I do it's probably the most sort of, it's where I get the most interaction. People always sort of send me, oh, I got that album that you look. So it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that. Well done. Thanks, Darren. That's absolutely brilliant. So, right, let's see if I can do this. Theme tune. Oh, fucking I hit it straight away. This is going to be a complete success. I can tell already. So, we're done. Thanks very much to my guest and my boy Darren Matthews. Check Darren Matthews out on the Darren Matthews and Friends podcast. And what was the other one you said you do? I forgot the name of it.
Injury Time, which is a sports podcast.
Yeah. So, I hope you offer medical advice because I fucking need a lot of that at the minute. So you can go and find Darren out there. And Darren is obviously he's a stand-up comedian. Are you any gigs going happening? Is there anything happening?
I am doing 2 nights at the Fill-In Football this year in West Belfast. I'm opening up for Paddy McDonald in the Devonish. I think the first night sold out, but there's tickets left for the Monday night, which is I think it's the 9th of August. Go check that out. And then, please God, with a bit of luck, my comedy club in the Sunflower Bar will be reopening whenever we can put people in there safely. We'll be doing that.
Brilliant. Okay.
So go find the Sunflower Comedy Club. It's on our Facebook page, and I'll keep you up to date there.
Brilliant. There we go. So you need to go and do that, everybody. Like, share, and subscribe with the podcast. And go and be awesome. And we're going to go. We've missed the first 15 minutes of this match, but I'm going to run around to the Woodville. I'm hoping I have a message on my phone where Richie McGee's going to say there's a big pint of juicy pint of Guinness sitting waiting for you. So I'm going to go and do that right now. Thanks, Darren. I appreciate it, brother.
No bother, Andy. Take care, everyone. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Right, I'm going to. How the fuck do I do this? Zoom video down. Zoom audio down. My camera down. Awesome. We're out. We're done. Alright, buddy. Take it easy. Bye now.